The arrogant demand the discovery in the depths of space. Aboard the massive command vessel Eternal Dominion, Supreme Chancellor Zorvac of the Hegemony Council studied the holographic display with growing irritation. His scaled fingers drummed against the armrest of his ceremonial throne as the intelligence reports scrolled past his reptilian eyes. "These humans," he hissed, the word dripping with disdain. "When did they first venture beyond their pathetic solar system?" His aide, a nervous creature called Nexus, shuffled through digital files with trembling appendages. "Approximately 50 of their years ago, Supreme Chancellor. Our scouts initially dismissed them as another primitive species that would burn out within a few centuries." Zorvac's eyes narrowed to slits. The hegemony had ruled this section of the galaxy for over 10,000 years. Hundreds of species bowed before their technological superiority and military might. These humans were nothing more than an irritating insect that had somehow learned to fly. And now they dare to establish colonies in the Kepler system. Zorvac's voice rose, causing several nearby officers to flinch. "That system has been designated as hegemony space for 3 millennia. The hologram showed a small human research station orbiting Kepler 4 for 2b, its modest solar arrays and communication dishes looking almost quaint compared to the massive hegemony structures elsewhere in the galaxy. But what truly infuriated Zorvac was the principle. No species had ever challenged hegemony territorial claims and lived to tell about it. "The ultimatum, prepare a transmission to their homeworld," Zorvac commanded, rising from his throne. His 8-foot frame cast an imposing shadow across the bridge. It's time these creatures learned their place in the galactic order. The communication array hummed to life, its powerful transmitters capable of reaching across hundreds of light years. In mere minutes, Zorvac composed himself, ensuring his most intimidating posture was captured by the recording devices. "Attention, primitive species of the third planet, designated Earth." His voice boomed through the ship's systems. "I am Supreme Chancellor Zorvac of the Hegemony Council, ruler of 600 worlds and master of 1,000 species. Your recent intrusion into the Kepler system constitutes a violation of ancient territorial agreements established long before your species discovered fire." He paused for effect, letting his words sink in. "You have exactly 48 of your hours to remove all presence from hegemony space. Failure to comply will result in the complete sterilization of your colonies and a blockade of your homeworld. This is not a negotiation. This is your only warning." The transmission ended, and Zorvac turned to his fleet commanders. "Begin moving the third battle group toward their solar system. Make sure they can detect our approach. Fear is often more effective than actual warfare." Earth's quiet response, 3 billion kilometers away on Earth, President Alina Rodriguez sat in the Situation Room deep beneath the White House. The alien transmission had arrived just hours ago, and the room buzzed with urgent activity. Military advisors, scientists, and intelligence officials filled every seat around the polished conference table. "Play it again," Rodriguez said quietly, her dark eyes fixed on the main screen. The alien's threatening image appeared once more. His reptilian features twisted in arrogance. Rodriguez had seen similar expressions in her decades of diplomatic service, usually from dictators who believed their own propaganda about invincibility. "Opinions?" she asked as the message ended. General Patricia Ali's, chairman of the Joint Chiefs, leaned forward. "Madam President, our deep space sensors are tracking a massive fleet heading toward the outer solar system. At least 300 vessels, some of them the size of Manhattan, and our defensive capabilities." Rodriguez asked, Admiral Marcus Chen, head of the Space Defense Command, smiled grimly. That depends on whether we're talking about what they think we have, or what we actually have. Rodriguez raised an eyebrow. The Shadow Fleet project had been humanity's most closely guarded secret for the past 20 years. While the world knew about their conventional space navy, very few knew about the quantum stealth vessels and reality-warping weapons that had been developed in hidden shipyards throughout the outer planets. "How long until their fleet reaches Earth?" she asked. 47 hours, 18 minutes, reported the tactical officer. "They're cutting it close to their own deadline." Rodriguez stood and walked to the large display showing Earth's solar system. Red dots marked the approaching alien fleet, while blue dots showed the positions of humanity's known defensive platforms. But she knew there were many more blue dots that weren't showing on this display. "They expect us to run," she said finally. "They expect us to abandon our people in the Kepler system and beg for mercy." "Yes, Madam President," Admiral Chen replied. Their communication contained embedded psychological warfare elements designed to inspire panic and submission. Rodriguez turned back to the room. "Then let's give them something they don't expect." Admiral Chen, activate Operation Mirror Shield. All units to stealth positions. Hidden preparations across the solar system, humanity's true defensive network came alive. In the asteroid belt, what appeared to be mining operations suddenly transformed into massive weapons platforms. Near Jupiter's moons, seemingly ordinary, research stations revealed themselves as heavily armed fortresses. And throughout the outer planets, sleek vessels materialized from quantum stealth fields, their hulls bristling with technologies that pushed the boundaries of known physics. The centerpiece of humanity's defense was the Quantum Disruptor Network, a series of weapons that could manipulate reality itself at the subatomic level. Years of research into quantum mechanics had yielded technologies that most species would consider impossible or even supernatural. Captain Sarah Kim stood on the bridge of the UES Defiance, humanity's most advanced warship. Unlike the bulky, intimidating designs favored by most spacefaring species, human vessels were sleek and efficient, built for speed and precision rather than intimidation. "All systems showing green, Captain," reported her tactical officer. "Quantum disruptors charged and standing by." Kim nodded, watching as dozens of similar vessels took up positions throughout the solar system. Each one was invisible to conventional sensors, hidden in quantum fields that bent light and energy around them like a cosmic mirage. "Remember," she announced to her crew, "we're not here to start a war. We're here to end one before it begins." The approaching Storm Chancellor Zorvac stood before the massive viewport of his flagship, watching as Earth's star grew larger ahead of them. His fleet had maintained perfect formation throughout their journey, a display of military precision. Meant to intimidate any observers, Supreme Chancellor Nexus approached cautiously. "Our sensors are detecting minimal defensive activity around the human homeworld. A few orbital platforms, some patrol vessels. Nothing that could threaten even a single one of our destroyers." Zorvac's mouth curved in what passed for a smile among his species. As expected, these primitives likely spent their entire budget building that single research station in the Kepler system. They have nothing left to defend themselves with. The tactical display showed Earth surrounded by a thin shell of defensive installations, laughably inadequate against the hegemony's approaching armada. Intelligence reports suggested humanity had perhaps 50 warships total, most of them converted cargo vessels with basic weaponry. "Open a channel to the human government," Zorvac commanded as they entered the outer solar system. Let them know their time is up. But as the communication array activated, something unexpected happened. Warning lights began flashing across the bridge, and the sensor stations erupted in confused chatter. "Supreme Chancellor?" The sensor officer called out in alarm. "We're detecting massive energy signatures throughout the system. Ships are ... They're appearing out of nowhere." Spun toward the tactical display, his confidence evaporating. Where moments before there had been empty space, hundreds of sleek human vessels now materialized, surrounding his fleet in a perfect sphere of containment. "Impossible," he breathed. "Our intelligence said they had 50 ships at most, sir." The communications officer interrupted. "We're receiving a transmission from the humans." The counter-ultimatum, Admiral Chen's face, appeared on the main screen, his expression calm and professional. Behind him, the bridge of the UES Sovereign bustled with quiet efficiency. Unlike the ornate, intimidating bridge of the Hegemony flagship, the human command center looked almost mundane, focused entirely on function over form. "Chancellor Zorvac," Chen said politely, "welcome to our solar system. I'm Admiral Marcus Chen of the Earth Space Defense Command. I believe you have something that belongs to us." Zorvac struggled to maintain his composure. What do? We want you to listen very carefully," Chen replied, his tone never wavering from diplomatic courtesy. "You came here expecting to find a primitive species cowering before your technological superiority. Instead, you've discovered that humans are quite capable of defending themselves." The tactical display now showed the true scope of humanity's defensive network. Not 50 ships, but over 800. Not primitive weapons, but technology that their sensors couldn't even classify properly. "This is impossible," Zorvac snarled. "Our intelligence reports showed you barely possessed spaceflight capabilities." Chen smiled slightly. "Yes, we encouraged that belief. It's much safer for everyone if potential aggressors underestimate our capabilities. But since you've forced this confrontation, allow me to demonstrate exactly what we've been working on." He gestured to someone off-screen. "Target the asteroid designated Charlie 77. Single quantum pulse, minimum power." On the tactical display, everyone watched as a small asteroid suddenly ceased. Not destroyed, not vaporized, but simply removed from existence as if it had never been there at all. The space where it had orbited was now completely empty, without even debris to mark its passing. Zorvac's scaled skin went pale. What did you do?" "Quantum disruptor technology," Chen explained matter-of-factly. "We can selectively edit objects out of local space-time. That asteroid has been removed from this reality entirely. As far as the universe is concerned, it never existed." The Hegemony Chancellor gripped his throne's armrests so tightly his claws left gouges in the metal. "You're threatening to use such weapons against us?" "Oh, Chancellor," Chen said, shaking his head. "You still don't understand. That wasn't a threat. That was a demonstration of restraint." Earth's devastating reply. The tables turn. Admiral Chen leaned back in his command chair, studying Chancellor Zorvac's increasingly pale expression through the communication link. The alien leader who had arrived with such arrogance now looked like a creature facing its worst nightmare. "You see," Chancellor Chen continued in his measured tone, "when you sent your ultimatum, you made several critical errors in judgment. First, you assumed we were alone. Second, you believed we were defenseless. And third, you thought fear would make us surrender." Around the Hegemony fleet, human vessels maintained their perfect containment formation. Each ship was a marvel of engineering that pushed the boundaries of physics, their quantum drives allowing them to appear and disappear at will. Captain Kim's voice crackled through Chen's earpiece. "Admiral, we're detecting power buildups in several of their vessels. I think they're considering opening fire." Chen nodded almost imperceptibly. "Chancellor, I strongly advise against any aggressive action. Your weapons, while impressive by galactic standards, are several generations behind what you're currently facing." Zorvak's reptilian features twisted with rage and confusion. "This is impossible. The hegemony has conquered 600 worlds. We have technology spanning 10,000 years of development. And that's exactly your problem," Chen replied. "You've been conquering species that were already behind you technologically. You've grown comfortable with easy victories against inferior opponents. Humans, on the other hand, have spent our entire history fighting each other." The Admiral gestured toward the holographic display showing Earth. "Every advancement we've made, every breakthrough in science and technology, has been driven by the need to outthink and outfight our neighbors. When we finally unified as a species, we turned that same innovative spirit toward the stars. The demonstration continues. Let me show you something else," Chen said, signaling to his weapons officer. Target grid reference deltanine, full spectrum demonstration. A section of empty space between the two fleets suddenly erupted in a display that defied conventional understanding of physics. Reality itself seemed to twist and bend as quantum fields manipulated the fundamental forces of the universe. Space-time rippled like water, creating visual distortions that hurt to look at directly. When the demonstration ended, a perfect sphere of absolute nothingness remained where empty space had been moments before. Not a vacuum, not darkness, but complete absence. Even light refused to enter the affected area. "Localized reality nullification," Chen explained casually. "We can create zones where the basic laws of physics simply don't apply. Matter, energy, even information cannot exist within those fields." Nexus, the Chancellor's aide, was frantically consulting his instruments. "Supreme Chancellor," he whispered urgently, "our computers cannot analyze what we just witnessed. The energy readings are ... impossible." Zorvak stared at the impossible void floating in space. His species had ruled the galaxy for millennia, but they had never encountered anything like this. "How," he demanded, "how did a primitive species develop such technology?" Chen's expression grew thoughtful. "We had excellent teachers. You see, every species you conquered, every civilization you destroyed, left behind records, fragments of their knowledge, pieces of their technology. Most of it ended up in your museums or private collections, forgotten and ignored." The Admiral paused, letting his words sink in. "But humans are excellent scavengers. We found those fragments. We studied them. We learned from the accumulated wisdom of hundreds of species that you deemed unworthy of existence. The real revelation, but that's not even the most important part," Chen continued. "The real difference between humans and the hegemony is how we think about problems. You see challenges as obstacles to be crushed with overwhelming force. We see them as puzzles to be solved with creativity and innovation." He gestured to the quantum void still hanging in space. "That technology wasn't developed as a weapon. It was originally designed for waste disposal. We needed a way to permanently eliminate nuclear waste, so our scientists found a way to remove it from existence entirely." Zorvak's eyes widened in disbelief. "Your waste disposal technology is being used as a weapon." "Oh, that's nothing," Chen laughed. Our actual weapons are much more interesting. Would you like to see what we built when we were actually trying to create something dangerous? Before Zorvac could respond, Chen continued, or perhaps you'd prefer to see our defensive systems. The same quantum fields that hide our ships can also create impenetrable barriers. We could seal your entire fleet in a bubble of altered space-time, leaving you trapped forever in a pocket dimension. The Chancellor gripped his throne's armrests. What do you want from us? Now that's the right question, Chen said, approvingly. We want exactly what we stated in our original response to your ultimatum. We want to be left alone to conduct our peaceful research in the Kepler system. The negotiation president Rodriguez's voice joined the conversation as her image appeared alongside Chen's on the Hegemony flagship's main screen. Chancellor Zorvac, let me be perfectly clear about humanity's position. We didn't ask to be involved in galactic politics. We simply wanted to study some interesting plant life on a distant world. Zorvac studied the human leader, noting the steel behind her diplomatic words. And if we agree to your terms, then our vessels withdraw to their previous positions, and you leave our solar system peacefully, Rodriguez replied. Our research station in the Kepler system continues its work, and both our species go about their business without further conflict. And if we refuse, the president's expression didn't change, but something cold flickered behind her eyes. Then you discover what happens when a species that has survived ice ages, plagues, world wars, and nuclear weapons decides that you represent a threat to their children's future. Admiral Chen leaned forward. Chancellor, your fleet consists of 300 vessels designed to intimidate less advanced species. Our defensive network includes over 2,000 ships equipped with technology that can rewrite the laws of physics. More importantly, every human vessel is crewed by individuals who volunteered to die protecting their home world. He paused to let that sink in. Your crews are here because they were ordered to be. Our crews are here because they chose to be. That makes all the difference in the galaxy. The wisdom of restraint. Zorvac looked around his bridge at his officers, seeing his own uncertainty reflected in their faces. The hegemony had built its power on the assumption that superior technology and overwhelming force would always prevail. But the humans had demonstrated that innovation and determination could overcome even the most advanced military might. You could destroy us, he said finally. Why haven't you? Because we're not monsters, President Rodriguez replied firmly. We believe that most conflicts can be resolved through dialogue and mutual understanding. We only fight when we have no other choice. Chen nodded in agreement. Besides, Chancellor, destroying your fleet would solve nothing. The hegemony would simply send more ships. And eventually, this would escalate into a full-scale war that would cost millions of lives on both sides. Instead, Rodriguez continued, we prefer to demonstrate that humans are not the easy target you believed us to be. Perhaps this experience will encourage the hegemony to reconsider its approach to dealing with other species. The Chancellor looked at the quantum void still floating in space, a permanent reminder of humanity's technological capabilities. And if we spread word of this encounter to other species, please do, Chen said with a slight smile. We'd prefer that future diplomatic contacts begin with mutual respect rather than threats and ultimatums. A new understanding, Zorvac straightened in his throne, making a decision that would change the balance of power in the galaxy. Very well, the Hegemony Council withdraws its claims to the Kepler system. Your research station may continue its operations without interference. Thank you, Chancellor, President Rodriguez said graciously. We look forward to establishing proper diplomatic relations between our species. As the communication ended, Zorvac turned to his fleet commanders. Signal all vessels. We're returning to hegemony space. Sir, Nexus asked quietly, what will you tell the Council? The Chancellor considered the question carefully. The truth, that we encountered a species that chooses peace over conquest, but is fully capable of defending itself if necessary. He watched as the human vessels began to fade from view, their quantum stealth fields rendering them invisible once more. Perhaps it's time the hegemony learned that true strength comes not from the ability to destroy, but from the wisdom to know when not to use that ability. The new galactic order, as the hegemony fleet departed, Admiral Chen remained on the bridge of the US Sovereign, watching their energy signatures disappear into hyperspace. Captain Kim's voice came through the communication system from her own vessel. Think they'll keep their word, Admiral? Chen smiled as he watched Earth turning slowly in the viewport. I think they'll spread the word that humans are not to be underestimated. And that, Captain, is exactly what we wanted. President Rodriguez appeared on his screen one final time. Well done, Admiral. How long before the galaxy knows what happened here? News travels fast in space, Madam President. I'd estimate every major species will know about this encounter within a few months. Good, Rodriguez replied. Maybe now we can focus on exploration and discovery instead of constantly worrying about invasion. In the depths of space, the human research station in the Kepler system continued its peaceful work, studying alien plant life and expanding humanity's understanding of the universe. But throughout the galaxy, word was already spreading about the species that had faced down the mighty Hegemony Council and won without firing a shot. The age of easy conquest was over. The age of earned respect had begun.